And this is a clear indication of that. She doesn't tell him about the parrot. She just moves on with her life going, oh, that was weird.
Yeah. Second, if I buy a house with my wife, right?
That would be me.
Yes, of course. And, we're looking through it, and I open a door, a cupboard, or whatever, and there's a dead bird. A dead bird that looks pristine is not rotting.
Right.
It obviously doesn't stink, so it just died. I would say, hey, love of my life, there's a dead bird. What do you think? Did it die yesterday? Did it die this morning? Should we help it? No. I completely don't tell her nothing. Ignore her. Just take the bird and go make a hole outside and bury it. That's what I do. Three, two, one. Recording.
Hello, I'm Caitlin.
And I am Charlie.
And welcome to Outsmarting the Shadows, where we help you survive horror movies. It's important.
Yes, it is.
Yes, and it's necessary. In case you ever encounter monsters, or demons, or ghosts, or you get a Ouija board for some ungodly reason, which I know you want to get one.
Yes, I do.
He just wants to test all of these.
Or
skills.
poltergeist.
Or poltergeist.
Can't forget the poltergeist.
That's true. Or you have sex in a graveyard.
Happens to the best of us.
Right? So we're here to answer not just two questions, but two questions specifically and first. And the one is, how would we survive this movie? And two, how did we do it?
Yes.
So tonight we're talking about a very interesting movie called The Room, the 2019 mystery thriller, and some search engines, which will not be named, also call it horror. The Room.
Streaming services?
It's Amazon.
Okay. Amazon. Right.
So it's starring Olga Kurilenko.
Olga.
Kurilenko,
I think.
I love that. What a beautiful name. Kevin Janssens and Francis Chapman. It's directed by Christian Volkmann, and its screenplay is also by Christian Volkmann and Eric Forestier and Sabrina B. Kareen. Now, Charlie, you and I have seen this movie.
Yes, we have.
But it goes without saying for our audience that we will be going through spoilers.
We're going to spoil the whole movie till the end.
The entire movie. So, if you have not seen the 2019 The Room, go directly to your nearest streaming service, which again will not be named, and pause this podcast and tell us if you survived with us.
Yes. Watch the movie and then come back.
Yes. Okay. So we're fast forwarding. We're going to pretend like you have watched the movie. We're assuming that you have. So the tagline for this movie, which I thought was really interesting, the only thing more dangerous than a man who can't get what he wants is a man who gets whatever he wants.
Anything.
A
Okay.
little weird, but okay.
Interesting.
This movie has such a classic trope, and yet I think it is really beautifully unique. It has a lot of interesting points that are not classic, but the plot follows along Matt, an artist, and Kate, who is like a virtual translator in her job. Her job is really weird.
I don't really understand what is it that she does.
Right. Does she translate over the phone for people? Like, do they call her to translate?
I understand she works from home, I think.
She works from home. Her husband seems like kind of self-absorbed because he's constantly doing art.
Yeah, he's one of those cliched, oh, I'm an artist, so
yeah,
I'm broke. I don't have money.
Right. They're waiting for their big break. So they move into an old house. The house is sort of classic horror movie house. For some reason, it's always a Victorian home that comes with an exorbitant amount of land, beautiful architecture, in slight disrepair, and is super cheap.
Extremely cheap.
Extremely cheap for some reason.
If you are trying to currently buy a house, you know that Victorian houses with a lot of land, extremely cheap, that's not a thing. So if you find that there's something attached to it, and you should look it up. Maybe.
Yeah, exactly. So they're moving into this house. They find out that there was a murder in the house, or
so before this, I think this is the first mistake. This is how you would survive all this. Just, why is it so cheap?
Right?
Did something happen in this house? You know?
Right? First of all, find out what happened previously.
Where are the owners? Are they
Also,
alive?
was there an inspection?
Yeah.
was it sold as is? And if that's the case, did you actually do a walkthrough?
Yeah. How's the roof? Does it have a basement? Yeah, are the pipes made out of cast iron?
That is an issue of a horror in the real world.
Yes, cast iron pipes after 50 years. They're not going to last.
Nope.
Anyway, continuing on.
Going on. So I don't know how they got all that beautiful land, but this couple explores their new home and they're cleaning up. And right there, in the midst of throwing out this beautiful Victorian furniture out of a second-story window for no reason, the husband, Matt, finds this beautiful key. I mean, this beautifully done orange key that then he just casually tosses out the window for no reason.
Yes. And you can tell, they wanted to go kind of like an old school type made key. Yeah. But you could tell it was laser cut, with a laser cutter. But it's okay. It's okay. Probably not the best budget. They couldn't hire a blacksmith, to smith a key. Just laser cut it really quick.
Oh my God.
And cheap. It's okay.
I'm laughing right now because Charlie is a mechanical engineer and Charlie notices things in movies that I'm like, wow.
Yeah, because here you have okay. You have a house, right? And there's this mysterious key which supposedly is older than time itself, and yet it was manufactured with modern technology with a laser cutter. Right. It makes no sense.
Right.
Anyway, it should have been, made by a blacksmith.
Right, of course. Anyway,
continuing on.
Nothing to do with survival.
Yeah, this is just things
that engineering now.
Yeah,
veered into engineering.
You can see that the key is not that old.
I was a little upset that he tossed all that beautiful furniture and the key out the window. This again, maybe we haven't really gone into survival yet. However, so he also finds a keyhole, and then he's like, "Oh, maybe it was that key."
Yeah. Oh. After throwing away furniture that's probably more than 100 years old, right, out of the house that you just bought, so you bought it with all this furniture, he says, "Oh, look, there is a keyhole in this wall. Oh, I know, that laser cut key that I threw away that was supposed to be an old key, maybe that key is the one that works for this door. So let me go back to the pile of trash outside and look for that key."
If we learned anything from the movie Under the Tuscan Sun, it is that when you get a nice old house, you go through it room by room slowly and you respect it. Not only is it a best practice for your mental health, but it also keeps the ghosts away, kids. Yeah. You need to keep the ghosts away. Be respectful as you walk through your new home.
And if you find really cool old timey-wimey keys, don't chuck them. Right. It could be for a door in your house
that leads to a demon dimension or something. Keep that kind of stuff. So, the wife, Kate, also discovers a dead, beautiful parrot in a pantry. She takes it outside to bury it. She turns around to watch her idiot husband throwing out furniture, and she turns back, and it's disappeared.
The parrot is not there anymore.
Very odd.
So, as a viewer, you're like, oh, it was alive, and it just flew away.
Yeah, sure.
That's what I thought.
Really?
Yeah, I was like, oh, look, it was alive and it flew away.
You know nothing about birds.
No, absolutely nothing.
So, anyway, another common thing that happens in these horror movies is that people don't communicate to each other effectively enough. They always have some sort of conflict that's going on in their marriage. And this is a clear indication of that. She doesn't tell him about the parrot. She just moves on with her life going, oh, that was weird.
Yeah. Second, if I buy a house with my wife, right?
That would be me.
Yes, of course. And, we're looking through it. And I open a door, a cupboard, or whatever, and there's a dead bird. A dead bird that looks pristine. It's not rotting.
Right.
It obviously doesn't stink. So it just died. I would say, hey, love of my life, there's a dead bird. What do you think? Did it die yesterday? Did it die this morning? Should we help it? No. I completely don't tell her nothing. Ignore her. Just take the bird and go make a hole outside and bury it. That's what I do.
The other thing is she didn't actually make a hole. She just rested it on the ground.
Yeah. You just take it outside. And that would be a thing you chuck out the window.
Okay, so I'm going to make a little caveat here because I've got to revisit this conversation later on in the story.
Yes.
Okay, so let's remember the bird.
Okay.
So later on, Matt discovers the keyhole, right? He figures out that the key matches. He opens the room and he finds just a blank, empty room. It looks like the size of a giant closet.
Yeah.
Right?
Big closet, just a cube, just a square room.
Right. Exactly.
That's it.
The couple has like this classic horror movie squabble. So if you want to survive in horror movies, you guys need to talk about your emotions like nicely to each other. Otherwise, you're going to get into a thing where you don't communicate and bad things are going to happen. Okay? So you move into a creepy old house, you better talk to your family, otherwise you're all going to die.
Mm-hmm.
Just horror movie survival. So, he gets really upset and he decides to go drink in this weird, creepy room because that's what you do, I guess.
Was this before contacting the quote unquote power company or after? I can't quite remember.
He gets upset. You're right. I'm missing a piece, and you guys have watched the movie, so you know. He gets upset. Something bad happens with the electricity when he opens that room.
Classic horror film.
Right.
The
lights flicker.
The light starts flickering and turn off and then come back.
And he goes, I shall contact the power company.
It's like, who wrote this? So, anybody who's anybody. It leads me to believe that whoever wrote this doesn't own a house or has never owned a house or knows nothing about power, because there's no, let me look at the yellow pages. Yes, the power company. Let's call them. Let's call the power company.
The power company that shows up in old Joe Schmo local town pickup truck guy.
Yeah, a guy with no branding of
toolbox.
No toolbox, no subcontractor, nothing. It's just this guy in an old beat up Ford,
right?
That he works for, quote, the power company.
Right, he works for the power company. So they go down into the basement where supposedly all of the electronics...
the electrical cabling.
Right, thank you. The electrical cabling in the piping is in your home in the basement. And one would think, even if it was sold as is, that they have been in this room.
Yeah, you have probably... Which leads me to believe that they bought this house sight unseen.
Survival tip number... Who knows?
Who knows?
Right?
If you're going to buy a house.
You buy a house.
Extremely cheap. With a lot of land.
Expensive. Or any home.
No, let's just say, because it's extremely cheap in this situation.
Right.
With a lot of land.
Right.
Which is a Victorian, mansion. Yeah, a Victorian manor. You should not buy it sight unseen. Meaning that you haven't gone in the property, you haven't seen the property. You just, it's cheap enough. Here's my money. I'll see it when I move.
Right? And one of the issues that I have is the basement of this home. You guys have seen it. The plethora, the set design.
Because we got to say, so the power company man.
Right, the power company.
He says, okay, let's look at the breaker box. And he says, the breaker box is in the basement. And when you go in, it's like a combination of a flux capacitor with a
living forest organism of wires.
Of wires. And it's like, first of all, again.
I'm going to let the mechanical engineer take over on this one.
First of all, this doesn't seem that it would pass inspection.
Okay? So it was sold as is.
Maybe it was sold as is, but still, you would do an inspection on the house.
Survival tip.
Yes, this does not pass inspection. The guy, the power company guy, he goes like, wow, I have never seen this before. It's like, okay, you've never seen it before. It doesn't even look like a normal breaker. So this artist guy, he's never in his life seen a breaker in any house. I don't know.
Well, I have to give kudos to the set designers for this.
Oh yeah, the set design was pretty cool.
They put work into this room. I know the room, the title is supposed to be the empty room upstairs that gives you everything.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, the room is that breaker box system. That is the most beautiful room I have seen in a horror movie in a long time. And one thing that I noted when we were watching this movie, Charlie pointed out, which a little bit took me out of the movie, but also was like, this is the best moment of my life. He goes, oh, look what's on there. They're from...
Oh, yeah, there's tubes from that because they probably when they built the room they used props, and one of the props which looks pretty cool is tubes from amplifiers, amplifier tubes.
Amplifier tubes.
So that was pretty cool. It looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
This amplifier has to do with electricity. So
yes.
yeah. Okay.
So anyway, let's go back to Matt and Kate. So the power company guy's like, I don't know what this is. This sounds really complicated. I'm gonna go back to my power company.
Yeah. And then at this point, when he's going into the car, he says, "Oh, I saw what happened in that house. It would never sell."
Right.
And it's like, "What do you say?" And then what's the guy's name?
It was Matt.
Yeah, Matt goes, "Well, do say, fine sir. What do you mean?" And then, well, I'm paraphrasing here. That's not exactly what he said. But then the guy said, "Well, of course, with the murders that happened in this house.
The murders and so and so.
The murders, you say, yes, classic movie cliche,
Right.
People have been murdered in the house that you just bought, the previous owners."
Right. So Matt learns that the killer that was in this home is called John Doe, and that he's still alive and living in a psychiatric hospital.
Yes.
So, if you found something like that out about your home, you should definitely ignore that completely, in my opinion, at this juncture.
Where you're broke and you just invested all your money into this house, and that's all you have?
All your money into this home. You need to look at what's creepy and what's not, and avoid the creepy stuff as much as possible, but communicate with each other about it.
Okay. And then not tell your significant other that the previous owners were brutally murdered in the house?
So I say that you should, but Kate's upset about everything.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe he didn't want to talk to her about it, but that's neither here nor there. So he goes back to this room, he's drinking, and he says, "Oh, I wish I had another drink." And a bottle appears.
Yes, and he, of course, freaks out.
Yeah, he freaks out like crazy. Kate comes into the room, and he kind of explains to her what's going on. Hey, this room produces everything.
No, that's not how it went. He started like, "Oh, it's this bottle," and then he starts creating a whole bunch of stuff, and then at the morning she wakes up and he's been all night creating stuff.
Yes, he has. But he creates paintings, he creates money, he creates everything.
Van Gogh paintings,
right. He convinces her, and she realizes that anything that they could want, it can be created in this room.
Yeah.
And
basically, here's where I start to think, okay, so what are the rules of the room?
Well, wait a minute. We haven't gotten there yet.
Okay.
Because, of course, there's a catch. But first, Kate's a little bit scared. But Matt says they should just enjoy it, which for me is the start of the issue of where the survival goes off. Where they're like, let's just enjoy it and not think about it, right? So they start everything, and we'll get to that later. But first, they ask for small things like paintings, money, fancy clothes, champagne. Kate even at one point says, "I'm going to just quit my job." And they're like living it up for days, for weeks. They play sex games.
It's not really clear how long.
Right.
They just exist
in that room, in the house.
Because it looks like they said, the hell with everything. We don't need...
At one point, he pours a cup of diamonds on her head, and it gets weird, and then she spits them out of her mouth.
Yeah. But I didn't understand that quite well, how much time they spent in the house.
Right.
Has it been weeks? Has it been months? That wasn't all that clear to me.
In this character's defense, at one point, Kate, while they're in bed, does ask Matt, "So how does this work?" She wants to know. And Matt's like, "Nah, who cares?
Who cares? It doesn't matter.
Who cares how it works?
You get whatever you want."
Maybe it's a computer or something.
Yeah. Maybe it has to do with, I don't know, that breaker box in the basement that wouldn't pass inspection.
Who knows?
But
at this point, they continue their dive into gluttony. And then the major plot point is, of course, reality starts to set in, and Kate realizes that she's living in this horrible life of the pain of abundance where nothing matters. And, they have this sobering moment. So, in my opinion, they went at this all wrong. So let's say, okay, at this point, we're in the movie, right? Mm-hmm. We've found this incredible room.
That gives you everything, anything.
I'm going to let you take this.
Okay. So, but we haven't talked about
what happens.
What happens if the things go out.
We haven't, but everybody's seen the movie. Everybody knows what happens after that. We'll go into it a little bit.
Okay.
But I want to talk about, because this is a character difference, and you have to know who you are. But ultimately, if you decide that you're going to just take this and enjoy it, you're not going to be analytical enough.
Mm.
Right? Like at some point after she creates the baby and then the baby starts to grow and then they realize...
we haven't talked about that.
We haven't talked about that, but that's the next step. The next step is they have a fight. He builds a nursery. She says she doesn't want kids. And then suddenly she just goes out for a drive and he comes back and she's got a baby.
Yeah.
Which is a terrible decision. No one has experimented. So here's the thing. If you find...
Can the room create life?
Well, apparently
it can, yeah.
You know, and the thing is, you didn't start out small.
Yeah.
You didn't start out with a plant.
You didn't start out with, how about a corgi? You know what I want? I've always wanted a corgi with blue eyes, you know, a little merle color, really nice, you know, with its full tail. Corgis get born with tails. They just get docked when they're young.
We have one of those dogs.
Yes. That's what I want. I want him to be called
Horatio.
Horatio, and answer to Horatio. You didn't start with that.
You didn't experiment.
You said, I want a baby.
I want a baby. I want
a human baby.
Being.
Yeah, a human baby that's...
We're going to go full broke.
Yeah, that's about, I don't know, like 2 months old. Because
that was a big baby.
Yeah, it was a big baby. It's probably like a year old, right? Or you would put it less than that.
I don't know. We don't have any babies.
I don't know. But it looked like a big baby.
It was a big old baby.
She didn't say, I want a newborn.
Right? It was a human child. And by the way, here's the other thing. Once they decided to go for broke and build a human child, like most people do.
Well, they is one too many because she's the one that did everything.
Yeah, but she did it. But then he was like, hey, take the baby back. You need to return it. And he couldn't do it. She couldn't do it.
But how do you return it?
Well, I wish the baby is gone.
Well, it has a little throat?
No, stop it.
That doesn't sound good.
Oh, my God.
You know?
Oh, my God.
You take it into the room and say, I want the baby to disappear.
Yes.
How would it disappear?
That's the thing. Like, they tried and neither of them could say anything. So...
But this is the things that before creating human life with this magical room, you would, you have the dog. Okay, now make the dog disappear.
Okay, wait a minute. We need to back up here completely because we've gone away from survival and we've gotten into story.
Yeah.
So, if you're in this situation and you encounter a room that creates anything you want, you create one thing and then you live with it for over a year. That is my first recommendation. Whatever that thing is, it could be a coin. You take it everywhere you see.
Or like the guy where he just took money and that's how he realized that the money turns to dust.
It ages.
When it gets out of the house, the premises of the house. Which looks like the perimeter, it looks like it's the front door, a couple of inches from the front door.
Yes, it is the front door.
So for those of you who haven't seen the movie, if you take anything that has been created by the room outside of the house, it turns into dust.
Right.
And here we come back to the bird.
Right. So we're coming back to the bird. So my question then, so anything that the room creates that remains inside the house doesn't age. It lives forever. It can be created and it exists forever. Why?
If it's an object.
If it's an object. Or...
If it's a human, it would just age normally like humans do, I would think.
No, because their baby aged rapidly.
Yeah, but it aged rapidly because he took it outside.
Oh, that's right. Anyway, listen to my point about the bird.
Okay.
This bird didn't go outside and come back. All right? That was a young bird. You could see it from the feathers. And yet, the bird was dead. So that means that somebody previously created a dead bird and just had it around. They were like, oh, I just want a dead bird.
Yeah. That doesn't rot.
Right? Like, why would you want that?
Why would you want a dead bird that doesn't rot?
That just is weird to me.
Is that just fancy taxidermy?
Yeah. Only it wasn't taxidermied. It wouldn't like look at you like, how could you shame me in this way?
Well, maybe it was, in a little shelf, and it fell when she opened it. She
No,
found it on the
it
floor.
was on the floor. Like, anyway, again, veering away from survival. So
when she took the bird outside, that's when we learned that when she took the bird outside and she looked away and she looked back, the bird's not dead. It turned to dust.
Turn to dust.
Yes.
Now, of course, we are not ignoring what this metaphor means. Everything turns to dust. Everything ages. Every physical object, every relationship, every human being, every piece of paper, every animal, every bed that you've ever slept in will eventually turn to dust. Everything will turn to dust. So you can't get attached to material objects. You can't define yourself by it. That's the point of the movie, right? Like, however, if you encounter this, you need to go about it strategically in order to survive. You need to make sure that you treat it like a tool and not like a free for all. One of the things that you said when you first watched this movie, Charlie, is you said it was like the holodeck on Star Trek. Because Star Trek people would survive this movie like gangbusters.
Yes. If you think about it, so at some point, Matt, was it, right?
Yep, Matt and Kate.
He decides, you know what? I don't want this baby. I want to kill it.
Yeah.
So he takes this baby and he just takes it outside.
Yeah.
And after taking it outside, then the baby starts rapidly aging. So that's how you know things turn to dust, but they don't turn to dust because they just magically turn to dust. Is that time outside of the house makes him age
more
quicker. Just fascinating. So there's the baby starts aging, and then he's like I don't know, 9 years old. Yeah. And then he brings him in the house when he's 8 or 9 years old.
Right, because Kate really flips out.
Yeah.
Now, here's another twist that the movie doesn't explore as much as they really should.
Yes, it doesn't.
He goes to visit John Doe in the psychiatric hospital.
Yes.
And he asked them, why did you kill the two people in the house who were your parents? Mm-hmm. And he said, well, I was also created by the room. And the way that I was able to survive
is that the creator
he had to kill the
has to die for the creation to live on. Right. Outside of the house.
Now, it's an interesting twist that he doesn't actually tell Matt this when he goes to visit him. He tells it subsequently to him while he's on the phone in his home, so that we know that Kate overhears that, and Kate attempts to kill herself in a car crash so that her son can live. Mm-hmm. But she can't do it. Yeah. So she comes back all guilt-ridden. She has sex with her husband. Her creepy room son sees it, and then it gets this weird, creepy sexual twist in the movie.
Yeah, but when he does that, he's still like 9, 8, 9, which is kind of weird.
It was really uncomfortable for everyone.
And then the kid decides at one point, you know what? Because they start, living with the kid, right. And they don't let him go outside.
They tell him there's germs.
There's germs, he could die. And at one point, he says, you know what? I'm going outside.
Yeah.
So he goes outside, and then he comes back as a teenager, I would say, 19, 20.
He makes himself into, like, as they say in Wikipedia, a man.
Okay.
Which he's not. He's
like young. A 22-year-old kid.
22. He's of manhood in some ways.
Yeah.
But he's a mental child. Because he's angry. He's angry at everything. He's angry
because
for lying.
He's been alive for a better part of, a month now? 2 months?
Probably a week.
Yeah, probably a week. And you have a 22-year-old's body, and you've been alive for a week.
So in a twist of character, obviously what happens in this movie is the son tries to kill the dad to get with the mom in very Oedipus style.
Yes.
And he creates not only the house, but the land outside the house.
He tries to kill his dad, but then they're in a kerfuffle, and then...
Nice word.
And then she gets knocked out, mm-hmm. And the dad gets knocked out. They all get knocked out.
Right.
Except the kid. And then we see from the perspective of the dad when the dad wakes up. And according to the dad... no...
They both look exactly like Matt.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's the lady. The lady wakes up.
Right.
I don't know.
It doesn't matter. The point is...
Matter. We saw this movie, 2 weeks ago now?
Yeah. Anyway, So once that happens, what you realize is that any sentient being in the home can also have control of the room.
Yes, that is a very important point.
That is an important survival tip.
And not only that, the room bends time and space.
Right.
So it is like a holodeck on a Star Trek.
Exactly.
On the Enterprise.
So it can expand itself to become as though it's as big as
Then my question would be, once you figure this out, how big can it get? Right. Could it be a universe?
But see, here's the difference.
Could you create a flying saucer? Could you create the Enterprise?
Could you?
Could you create a lightsaber? Would it create it?
I mean, yeah. Could you defy the laws of currently known physics and bring the clearly can story alive?
Because the room turns into essentially a TARDIS, bigger on the inside.
That's true. Now, if you're not familiar with these shows, shame on you.
Doctor Who.
Right, Doctor Who. All right. So here's the thing. There's a very powerful force acting in this movie. And unfortunately, at this point, everyone involved, including the characters, have realized that Matt and Kate are not equipped to deal with this kind of power. And that is survival tip number, which is, no matter what, you keep your head. You need to think strategically.
Yeah.
What in front of you is dangerous and what in front of you is a tool. And how do you treat tools? With respect.
Yes. Treat tools with respect.
Yeah. So a lot of crazy stuff happens in the movie to Matt and Kate, as you saw. Matt is like, we think Matt's dead. The kid has turned himself into looking just like Matt and created a room inside the room, which is his house. Matt breaks in while the kid created by the room, who looks like Matt, unfortunately rapes Kate.
Well, see, this part is pretty, a little bit weird.
It's all weird.
First of all, the kid looked like he went into the room and created a forest with the same house in the room. So is the room in the room? My question is, then would that room in that house in the room also work as a room? I don't know.
But
probably would, because it's in the room. But anyway,
the thing that
other than that, he turned himself. So he went into the room and said, "I want to look exactly like what he perceives to be his father, which is Matt," which is creepy in itself. But then he tries to have sex with his mother, which is creepy in and of itself.
It's Oedipus.
Yes, but then the way the scene is shot, it's not really all that clear that he raped his mom. It wasn't clear.
I disagree.
I don't see it as clear, because the way it was shot, it looked like then his real dad figured it out, came into the room, saw that there was a room inside a room, and he came out. And then it looked like he was just telling her to be quiet. I realized that had happened at the end. But let's talk about that later.
Listen, I think that you don't understand what was happening. Because
I clearly dozed off at this point. It's like, I don't get it. This is weird. It's kind of nasty, but okay.
All right. Anyway, so Charlie didn't understand that section, so you're going to ignore everything that he just said.
Yes.
He was raped by this room child. She was raped by the room child. Anyway, the thing that I found really interesting about this point is that Matt, in order to get into the locked room, which is the new house inside the room, he broke through the wall. And in doing so, he crawled through like 30 feet of cables.
Yeah, of interesting
very
design cables.
Very interesting.
Whoever thought about the
mechanics.
The mechanics of how this room bends time and space, and they put in a lot of thought into it.
Now, here's
a lot more thought than what the writers did for the script.
For Kate and Matt.
Yes.
Now, here's the thing. Okay, survival tip. If you figured out that this thing has wires and cables and a control box downstairs and it's connected to the house and the house has its own sort of rhythm about these things, you know you're dealing not with the supernatural, but most likely a very advanced machine and technology. And that means that there are rules in place. Very specific rules that if you follow, you'll probably be safe.
Of how it works.
Of how it works.
All you have to understand is this is just advanced technology.
Advanced technology. So
who built it?
Right?
We don't know who built it, but it's there.
And remember, thunder used to be the terror of the gods before we were anything beyond that, right? Like humans used to think that was...
Go back in time and show somebody 3,000 years ago a smartphone.
Yeah, same thing. So it's awful that this happened to this family or to this couple, but I think that in order to survive, and obviously at the end, like she's pregnant, you don't know, is she pregnant with the room baby or is she pregnant with the...
So let's just go a little bit, he finds out that he's in the fake room, so he comes out and then they kind of like swindle the kid into going out of the room and then they lock him outside and which that part was pretty cool, where you see him go outside and you see him aging. And then he's banging on the door because he's of old age. And he's like, oh, well, I'm still going to die. So he walks back. And then he falls on the floor. And you see him age and turn into dust. That was a really cool scene. I really like that scene.
It was very interesting. Very emotional for everyone. But the thing that I think we can learn from this is how to use this tool responsibly.
Yes.
Which... you had a lot of really interesting insights into that. So you have to think, how would you use this effectively so that you live in this house and make this, because you can't keep money, you can't use the money.
Yeah, but that's what I was wondering at this point. So, okay, let's say you bought some scrap metal, right?
Right.
And you say, oh, I need to weld. So you create, you go to the room and you say, okay, I want a welder. Okay, let's say, okay, you're going to weld with TIG. You're going to be TIG welding. Okay, you created the TIG weld, so then you need some argon. Okay, so make me a bottle of argon.
You're going to have to fast forward this because most likely our readers do not weld.
Okay. So to weld TIG welding, you need argon and you need a TIG welder. So my question is this. You bought metal, you take it into the house, you weld with this created welder, and you use created argon. When you finish welding your stuff,
right,
and you take it outside, what happens?
I think
the metal you bought is not
from the room.
From the metal you bought that you took to the room is not going to age. What will age? The argon is gone because you just used the argon to, to create the welds to prevent oxygen from going into the weld. What disappears? Do the welds grow old themselves?
Question number 2: if you eat food from there,
and you go out, do you get hungry?
Partially digesting it.
Yeah.
Does it rot in your stomach?
Or disappears instantly? I don't know.
No, can't. But it can't disappear because remember.
But then you get hungry when you go outside. What about the?
See, I think if it's already passed through your system, the nutrients has already turned into your body.
But then the energy dissipates instantly. That makes no sense.
Would you lose weight? Anyway, so here's the thing. There are a lot of questions.
These are the rules that you would have to figure out before you say, I want a baby.
Right.
That's what you would have to figure out before. You know what I want? I want a 1-year-old baby.
I want a human.
A human baby. With a soul. That's what I want. That's what I want. I'm not going to see how any of this works.
Okay,
so anyway, we're wrapping it up.
We're wrapping it up by saying, I mean, there are so many... Well, wait a minute. There is a specific point that I want to inform people if they ever encounter the situation, how they can use this.
Okay.
No matter what.
What is the point?
Okay. The thing you can acquire it doesn't matter, is knowledge. So you can have access to any document, any piece of paper, any book, any person from history.
So the internet.
Damn it.
So you're asking for the internet. Yes. I might as well go in the room and say, you know what? I want a 10 gigabit Ethernet connection. I want the best internet. And would a cable just appear out of nowhere? and say connect right here to have blazing fast speed internet. Oh, and for free.
That's true. Here's the other thing you could do in this room.
No, but I understand. Sorry to interrupt you, but I understand what you mean. Like, oh, I want to talk to, I don't know,
Theodore Roosevelt.
Yeah, okay, a president, sure. Yeah, that's what I want to do.
Well, Albert Einstein, okay?
Yeah,
Albert
let's
Einstein.
talk to Einstein. Let's talk. I don't know if you're. Let's say you're I don't know, a veterinarian. I don't know nothing about veterinarians, but insert famous veterinarian here. I want to talk to that guy.
Right. Well, the other thing that you could do that would be really cool is you could repair anything in your house.
Yeah, but it would have to be in the room.
No, it wouldn't.
No?
Think about it. Let's say you have a plumbing issue. We keep coming back to this because we have plumbing issues in our house. So if you need a 10-foot PVC pipe, you can get it.
Well, it depends.
And you just put it.
Because.
How far down?
How
does
far?
It go?
Not down, but when it connects to the sewage line, thinking that there's sewage, you can't go past that line from like a couple of inches from the front door.
Right. So these are the questions you have.
These are the questions. Like you would have to go to the big box store or whatever, buy a pipe, and then run it up to that point in front of the house, and then connect it to the main pipe from the room.
But then, what's the connection like?
Well, you probably have to buy. You buy.
Anyway, okay, we've gotten into mechanical engineering.
Yeah, that doesn't matter.
But here's the other thing you could do. You could decorate your house any way you want. You could make any plush piece of furniture. You could have. Oh my God, this would be so
custom made bed, whatever you want.
Custom made anything. You could have sheets that you've always dreamed of. You
never have to cook.
You never have to cook again.
Just that alone, not have to cook and not have to pay food.
It would save so much money and time.
Yeah. You don't have to clean anything.
Oh,
dishes. Oh, I don't want these clean dishes. Put it in the room. Say, make them disappear. Ha ha.
Here's the other question that I have that we need to have answered. If I expand the home, right? Let's say I do an extension onto the bedroom or something. Would that be included in the room now? Or
I don't think so because the room.
Wires in the room.
Yeah, the room is an electromechanical device.
Okay.
So whoever builds that expansion must understand how this electromechanical device, this complex watch, if you will, works. Right. And it would need to understand the inner workings of this device to be able to expand it.
Here's the thing.
It's like a mechanical watch. You can't take it down the street for it to be fixed. You gotta go watchmaker.
You can't contact the power company?
No, you can't contact. You know who I'm gonna contact? The watchmaker people.
Right, the watchmaker.
Watchmaker people.
Something that I would be doing constantly in this movie is I would be looking up who built the house.
Yes.
Why didn't they go into that? Who cares about the murders?
Yeah, I feel like in this movie they had so much that they could have done, but they didn't do. It's like sprinkled here and there, like when he goes into a wall and you see that it's this intense like device. Wires everywhere. Yeah. When you go to the basement, the prop people made a really
it's beautiful
environment there. And when it creates a house inside the house, you understand, oh wow, this is
really
more powerful than just creating trinkets and knickknacks.
Yeah.
And that should have been looked into a little bit more, I think.
I think so too.
Anyway, in the end, the kid dies. They leave him outside. He turns into an old man. Then he turns to dust. And then at the end, wasn't it an after credit scene or was it just a normal scene? I can't remember if it was after credit or not.
It was a normal scene. They're in a hotel room.
They're in a hotel room because they decided
they fear the tool now.
Yeah, they fear the tool, even though now there's no.
They're cavemen and thunder.
Yeah, and now that the kid is dead, there's really no danger as long as you don't create another human.
Another person.
Yeah.
However,
there's no danger.
We find out that Kate is pregnant.
We find out that Kate is pregnant, and she could not get pregnant with her husband. Right. So that's when I realized, he wasn't covering her mouth. He did actually rape her. This is the moment that I realized it. That flew right by my head. Okay, but I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
So there's like,
anyway.
So that means that he did, and she was able to still be pregnant because the creator, which was the kid, died. Therefore, her baby lives.
Oh, I didn't really think about that.
Yeah.
I thought that her baby lived because it was the room.
No.
It was like a special.
Well, I understood it as the baby lived because the creator was the kid, and the kid died, and the creator has to die for the kid to for the creation to survive. That's
a really misogynistic creation story, though.
That is what it is.
The creation story is just about the man.
Yeah. In the end, it's it's pro-life. It's a trap. It's a trap.
It's a trap movie.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I think that kid is going to be really interesting. I want to see The Room too, but with characters that are better.
I would like to see the history of The Room.
Yeah.
It would be cool if they made a movie about who built it.
Yes.
The history of who designed it.
Yeah. The metaphorical watch.
The idea, how it came to be.
Yeah.
What type of, power he used for it, and why.
And why did he, I mean, maybe he had to, or she had to create it within a specific space. And I wonder why they chose
that would be an interesting movie.
Yeah.
But it depends on, did it make enough money to merit them doing a second movie on this one?
So the movie was made in 2019 and it premiered in Belgium. And then in France. And then online streaming. So highly likely that it did not earn hardly any. Let me look it up right now, actually. And see if they say.
Because if it made enough money and they decide to make a sequel, I would enjoy a prequel. Really with going into all those points. Who created it? Why? How did he design it?
Yeah.
How did the cables came to be?
Well,
what are the rules? I really want to know the rules of this room, because from what I saw, you can go in that room and say, I want a spaceship. I like
that you keep coming back to
this. I want to be in a nebula to get some coffee.
That's another Star Trek reference.
There's coffee in the nebula.
There's always coffee in nebulas. Okay, so this has a 71% favorable rating on Rotten Tomatoes. There are only 14 reviews, though.
That's okay.
This was in 2019 officially selected for the Hof International Film Festival in Germany, the Sitges makes sense, International Film Festival of Catalonia.
Catalonia.
Thank you.
Spain.
And Bushland International Film Festival. So this has been pretty well renowned. It's just not been.
I mean,
they don't say how much money it made.
It could be that they make a sequel or prequel. We'll have to see.
We'll have to see. So I hope that you guys realize now that the number one takeaway for survival of this particular situation is take your time, really investigate, figure out what the rules are. And remember, if you're dealing with technology that's not actively immediately trying to murder you, and not horror where it's like a supernatural being that has motivation and just a tool, you are the one that dictates when the danger comes into play by doing things. So you need to do things strategically.
And don't make a baby without understanding how the rules. Yeah, don't just
don't make a baby.
Don't go in there, I want a baby, without understanding what that entails.
You know what's so funny? What I love about this film? This movie basically talks about everything that your parents tell you when you go off to college.
Right.
No, I'm serious.
Yeah.
Think about it. Don't party all the time. Don't just ask for everything. Don't be gluttonous. Don't make a baby.
Don't make a baby.
Don't make a baby.
Yeah.
Because it'll all just crumble.
I tell you, it's a trap.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on our survival guide. You've outsmarted the shadows officially, and you're evading the grasp of the cinematic horror with us.
Yes, and you have survived the 2019 movie titled The Room.
Yes. It's interesting to note that Kate and Matt survived this film as well, who were the main characters in the movie, and in fact, created life.
Yes.
Real life in the end. So I would call this a win in the horror genre movie situation.
I guess.
Yeah.
They were alive, just Maybe go to therapy.
Oh yeah.
Once in a while.
If
Psychologists, maybe a psychiatrist, and they will be fine.
They will be fine. If in the end of a horror movie all you need is therapy,
Good. Roll off.
Yeah. So thank you so much. We will be having a podcast every week.
Yeah.
Next week we haven't quite determined film yet.
But if you have any recommendations, feel free to send the recommendations
or survival tips of your own.
Yes.
We would love to have your recommendations for The Room 2019. What did you do to survive? How would you use this tool? And what did you think of our tips?
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Have a good one.